Very good noon to all of you. Hi Rohit. Hi Varun. Good noon. Good noon. Same here, Varun. Right. So I welcome you to this session. You know me. I'm Nikita. Let's talk about some VARC questions, some important questions patterned on CAT. Right. So today also we are going to talk about one RC passage and some VA questions. Right. So it's a mixed batch of questions today. We'll look at some VA question types. Right. In fact, all the VA question types that are asked in CAT. Then we'll talk about some common RC question types. We'll look at an RC passage. And of course, we will learn the approach to solving these questions. Right? Hi Gyaneshwari. Hello Harika. Hi Akshay. Hi Maitri. Good noon all of you. Acha, not audible. Just a second. Let me check. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. I think I'm audible. Others, am I audible? Okay, okay. All right. Perfect, perfect. So, yes, I was talking to you about our agenda for today. I hope you heard me. Right, a good afternoon to all of you just joining. Gopika, Akshay, Harika, Prachi, Karthik. Very good afternoon. Right. So, first, let's attempt a VA question today rather than an RC question, right? This will also give you an idea what works better for you, right? I tell you this that you can try different combinations. In some mocks, you could have attempted, let's say, RC passages first and then VA. In some mocks, you could have attempted VA first and then RC passages and see how it works for your accuracy, your comfort level, right? So, I hope you have evolved the strategy for yourself by now. Let's attempt an odd sentence para jumble, right? So five sentences are given to you. One is the odd sentence out. I want you to identify that in a minute. Okay, your time starts now. Let's see what you say. Okay, so I have got three. I've got four threes from you. Good afternoon, those who have just joined us. Hi, Amrit. Okay, two also I've got now. One, five. Okay, one. All right. Okay. So two ones, three fives, some threes, and one two. Let's have a look. Pretty much, I've got pretty much everything except four, right? So that means this much is clear to us that four belongs. We have dammed and diverted two-thirds of the world's largest rivers. So we are talking about controlling rivers here, right? Damming them, putting dams on them, diverting their water. So, in a way, we are controlling rivers. That much is clear to us. Now, humans have filled in or drained 87% of the world's wetlands. So, again, it shows how we are uh, tweaking nature or controlling, trying to control nature, particularly with respect to water. Today, most water is not in its natural state. Again, water not being in its natural state, our desired are basically our attempts to control it, not desire. So to say, the attempts to control it. So attempt here, attempt here. Today, most water is not in its natural state, especially in industrialized countries. So, this looks like it could be the opening sentence. And first, I tell you that water is not in its natural state, then I give you 1 and 4 as examples, isn't it? So 2, 1, 4 definitely belong. It comes to 3 versus 5. Okay, 3 versus 5. Now, 3 says the impulse to control water in ways that have contributed to many of our current troubles is not innately human. So, first of all, my other sentences do not discuss troubles, do they? Also, the other sentences appear to be pretty objective in nature, factual in nature. This comment, this idea that it is not innately human, makes the tone of this sentence negative. Right. So, whereas if I compare it with 5, what does it mean for a river to be free? We are talking about human control of water. We have discussed rivers particularly in a sentence, right? So, raising a question after giving facts is a more natural way to proceed with your paragraph rather than taking a leap, talking about some troubles that haven't been discussed in other sentences, and at the same time turning your tone to negative suddenly. Okay, so when I compare 3 and 5, 5 emerges as something that belongs to this paragraph, that can belong to this paragraph, whereas 3 takes a leap. So it is 3 that is the odd sentence out. I am happy that quite a few of you right in the beginning said 3. Okay, it did come down to 3 and 5. Makes sense to everyone now why 5 over 3? Even though 5 on the first glance it appears to be relatively as if it is digressed from the topic. Okay, so I hope it makes sense to everyone. Good. Now that it does, so let's have a look at an RC passage. I have created some questions from this passage for you. Okay, so while you may feel that, okay, you have read this passage, the questions would be relatively new for you, right? Let's see if you feel that. Now, the topic is something, see, when you get your science, when we talk about issues in science, artificial intelligence is a big issue that is being discussed in science these days. Climate change, ecology, that is another big issue, right? Let me call it CC. And the third issue that has always been there, and it is somehow related to AI also, is the issue of consciousness. So let's read a passage that talks about it. Okay, and then we'll attempt some questions. Some of them I have created. Okay, let's have a look. Read and let me know once you're done with this slide. Done. Others. All right. This one also. Let's go to the next paragraph, slide then. Completed. Perfect. Let's go to our questions then. So your first question asks, which of the following would be true if the heart problem did not exist? Let's see what you say. Okay. So 1 minute is up. I've got 1, 3, 4, and 2. All the options out here. All right. So let's have a look. The most number of responses are for 3. Good. 3 is the answer. Okay. Let's see why. So, see what is happening. Our author very clearly explains it to us that the problem, what is exactly the problem of consciousness. Okay, so the first slide tells me that certain physical processes that happen in the brain, they produce feelings in us. That is the hard problem is that we don't know why these feelings are produced, right? So the problem is that no one knows why these correlations exist, that certain processes in the brain produce feelings in human beings. So if this problem did not exist, that means the processes in the brain would not produce feelings in human beings, right? So, in that case, first says that it would not have had any impact on a human being. See, it might have had an impact, just that the human being might not have been able to feel it, right? So, this is distorted in saying that it might not have had any impact on a human being. Maybe the impact would have been there, just that you would not have been able to feel it. For instance, to give you an analogy, when you consume a painkiller, it's not like the pain stops existing. It's just that you stop feeling the pain. So the pain is there in your body, right? But you are not able to feel it. So the impact is there, eliminated. Human beings might have become insensitive and zombie like because of lack of feelings. This one is extreme. I think everyone should have easily eliminated this because of this phrase zombie like. The moment you read it, you realize, okay, the author has not gone so far as to say this. that this is what I mean, without feelings we are nothing but zombies. That's not an idea that has been really discussed in the RC. Now, between 3 and 4, human beings might not have been able to discover some physical processes in the brain. See, we may have been able to discover the physical processes, just that we would not have been able to feel as a result of those physical processes. That feeling would have been absent. Otherwise, if you, let's say, opened up someone's brain and researched on it, right, you conducted experiments on it, you might have been able to discover some physical processes in the brain. That may have happened. So 3 is the answer, that brain activities might have become this background work that is happening in your body in the background without producing any awareness in you. You are not aware of it, right? Of this background work that is happening in your brain. So 3 is going to be our answer. Okay. I hope this makes sense to you. So okay, all right, perfect. Now coming to our next question. Let's see. Okay. So some of you have answered, right? So in such questions, see, I understand that we are basically challenging the author's views overall. So I can't go back and reread the entire passage. But there are certain instances that I can reread. For instance, if you're not sure about 4, you can always go back and see what Galileo said. So that sort of confirmation is fine. Okay. First says materialists have not simply redefined consciousness but have discovered significant new things about it. What is the author's problem with materialists? Let's see. The author's problem is that, you know what materialists do? They they start off by declaring that they're going to solve the hard problem. But somewhere along the way, what they start doing is they start explaining the associated behaviors. That means they are not answering the question of why of consciousness. They start explaining more about the what of consciousness, right? They start explaining the associated behaviors. So the author says that those we know that okay, there are certain associated behaviors. We know in minute detail what all happens in the brain when, let's say, we feel hunger. But why it happens is what you need to clarify, which materialists are not doing. So even if I say 1, right, that is not going to contradict the author's views, because you might tell new things about it, but you might still not up ending by telling the why of it. Okay, you've not told me about the why of it. So materialists might say a lot of new things about it and still not explain the why of it. This does not cast a doubt on the author's views remain intact here. Second, advances in science have been able to explain some feelings in mathematical terms. All right. Where was this talked about mathematical terms? When we were discussing Galileo, right? So basically, what Galileo said was that when we say that tomatoes were red or paprika was spicy, actually paprika was not spicy. Our brain, now we call it the mind. I mean, earlier Galileo called it the soul. We can call it the mind. Yes, it's the mind. So our mind actually uh, has that sensory quality that it perceives paprika to be spicy, right? Paprika spicy nahi hai apne aap mein. That's something that Galileo said. So Galileo said that matter does not have sensory qualities. Matter does not have sensory qualities. So that means we can't really capture these sensory qualities in the material world. That means that sensory qualities cannot be captured in mathematical vocabulary, because matter में तो है ही नहीं, वो तो आप उसको mathematical terms में frame ही नहीं कर सकते हो. That is what Galileo said, that a mathematical vocabulary could never capture the complete nature of matter, right? So his solution was to strip matter of its sensory qualities and put them in the mind, that वो matter में है ही नहीं, वो mind में है, right? And if matter itself has no sensory qualities, then it is possible in principle to describe the material world in purely quantitative vocabulary of mathematics. So that means when matter did not have sensory qualities, then you could describe it in mathematical terms. That means प्रॉब्लम क्या हो रही है कि हम सेंसरी क्वालिटीज को मैथमेटिकल टर्म्स में नहीं डिस्क्राइब कर पा रहे हैं. So sensory qualities are what, your feelings? Yes, the feelings that we have. So we are not able to describe feelings in mathematical terms, and that is why materialists are not able to explain as to why certain feelings are produced. So if this happens, that we are able to describe these sensory qualities in mathematical terms, then we will be able to explain the why of consciousness, the why of these feelings in scientific terms, isn't it? Then what the author is saying would no longer remain true, that materialists can't really explain it. Because if you've captured these sensory qualities in mathematical terms, then you can explain them. So, actually, yes, this is a critical reasoning based question, and 2 is the one that would cast the highest doubt. We'll come to 3 and 4 also, and I'll tell you how through elimination also you could arrive at it. Those who marked 3, you have been in a hurry. ओके, ऑथर ने ये बिल्कुल नहीं बोला है कि हम एक्सप्लेनेशन फाइंड ही नहीं कर सकते. Author has never said this, that we can't find an explanation for the hard problem of consciousness. Author's assertion is that we can't explain it in purely physical terms. Okay, we can't explain it in purely scientific terms, physical terms. Materialist explain नहीं कर सकते उसको, right? So that is why saying that it is possible to find an explanation does not contradict the author's views. Author ने ये नहीं कहा कि आप explanation ही नहीं find कर सकते, बस materialist scientific terms में उसको find नहीं कर सकते. So even 3 goes. Between 2 and 4, Galileo's response would probably be far different from what the author imagines. This is very vague, to be honest. The moment you read this option, you realize what, okay, it's not stated what would Galileo say. जब तक हमें पता ही नहीं कि Galileo क्या कहेगा, हम कैसे बोल सकते हैं that this is going to cast a doubt on the author's views? It could be far different, but it could still not contradict what the author is saying. I could give a different response, but I would still not contradict you. That's possible, right? So 4 is eliminated. Right? So 2 is the answer here. I hope this is clear. I hope I've been able to explain this sciencey stuff to you, right? And yes, this was a tricky question, definitely. Okay, you had to think here. And I created this question. Coming to our fourth question, you have to capture the essence of the passage. See, one thing that I recommend to students, because it works for me, is attempting the main idea question towards the end, because by then you have delved deep into 3 questions already. You've read some parts of the passage again, so that sometimes helps you to attempt an essence of the passage question, right? So let's see if it helps us right now. Here your time starts now. All right. Okay, let's see what you say. 3, mostly I've got threes. I've got one also. 3? How come have you marked 3? Materialists and philosophers agree on the concept of consciousness. This is the essence of this passage. Where have they agreed on the concept of consciousness? Also, is this what the passage trying to capture? I think I stated the essence of the passage very clearly in the previous question also when I was explaining to you the answer of the previous question. Author का assertion क्या है in various paragraphs? Let's see. So basically, the author first defines what is the problem of consciousness, right? If I have to go with a key idea approach, what is the problem of consciousness? That is what is discussed in the first para. Okay. Then the author elaborates it using an example and says that we don't know the why of our feelings. Why of the feelings is not known, right? So it is elaborated here. And finally, a name is given to it. Then the author says that materialists are unable to answer this, They change the topic. Okay, they change the subject. They start off by saying, okay, we'll solve it, but then they change the subject. In spite of these difficulties, many scientists and philosophers maintain optimism that materialism will prevail. So many scientists and philosophers say they are optimistic that we will be able to explain consciousness in purely materialistic terms, in purely physical science terms, right? Uh, and the author says in spite of these difficulties, author को लग रहा है कि देखो इतनी difficulties है फिर भी ऐसे बोल रहे हैं. At every point, philosophers have declared because of the history. At every point, philosophers have said that some phenomena cannot be explained, but then scientists have gone ahead and explained it. So that is why this optimism. So the author discusses this optimism in this para. Okay. Then the author says that the very basis of physical science is that it has taken consciousness out of the equation. Physical science was created by taking consciousness out of the physical world. Then how can you explain consciousness in physical terms? So author का view है कि materialist नहीं कर पाएंगे physical terms में explain, right? Because physical science was created by taking consciousness out of the equation. So what should be our answer then? So see this. It comes down to 1 and 2, right? 3 is not the essence. Segregation has not really been discussed. This becomes additional info or alien, as I like to call it, right? Um, Between 1 and 2, this is something that is discussed in one paragraph, that why does the author think that materialists will not be able to perhaps solve this problem, right? So this is discussed in one para very clearly, that they change the issues. But ultimate point क्या है author का view क्या है ultimate, वो नहीं explain कर पाएंगे. The author thinks that the hard problem cannot be solved by materialists because they will try to solve it in purely physical terms. 2 is the answer here. Okay. So I hope this is clear to you now. All right. So I expected you to narrow down to 1 and 2 here. Okay. Because a lot of you said 3, probably then this was a tricky question for you. Okay. So all in all, this passage had 2 tricky questions. Yes. I think 2 tricky, 1 moderate, 1 easy. We could call it that. है ना? Yes. Acha, one question still remains. Sorry, one question still remains because I had numbered questions like this today, no? So that's why. Question number 5. Which of the following statements can be inferred from the passage? Yes, your time starts now. I understand, Jas. I understand, Akshay. So I'll explain this. Attempt this one first. Let's see what you say. Okay. 1 and 2 are opposites. Yes, 1 and 2 are opposites. So that actually makes our task easier, isn't it? So 3 again. All right. 4 becomes extreme. Very good. So 3 is the answer here. Because quite a few of you said 3, that means this was relatively easy for you, isn't it? So the passage argues that science could uncover all the mysteries of the world. First of all, the passage is not really very positive about science uncovering the why of consciousness. Secondly, when I say all mysteries of the world, that is too broad and extreme at the same time. So eliminated. Second is simply too broad. We are not talking about all the mysteries of nature here, right? So anybody who thought of second should have rejected it because of it being too broad as an answer, right? Third says the passage argues that science and consciousness are two different domains. Yes, towards the end, the author comes to this view that they are two different things. Science was created by taking consciousness out of it, out of matter. So, yes, this is something that is substantiated by my passage. 4 says that nature is so mysterious that humans are not even aware of the phenomena that can be researched. This is too vague. Okay. Also, we are not really discussing nature here. We are discussing a very specific thing called consciousness. So, too vague, too broad to be the answer. 4 should have been eliminated right away. So, 3 is our answer here. Okay. Hope this is clear to everyone. Science does try to explain everything with some or the other explanations. Okay. So, from that, what can we infer? It could uncover all mysteries of the world. That would still, even if let's say so far it has explained almost everything, then also we can't predict this. Yes, then also we'll not be able to predict because one is a future prediction. Right, yes, tricky passage, I agree. Okay, so I thought to bring something trickier than what we did yesterday, and hence this passage. So, see, the passage was interesting. Yes, it talked about the hard problem of consciousness. The questions in questions then, see, once you realize that, okay, I haven't been able to narrow down to even two options, let's say, after, let's say, 50 seconds or a minute, then you realize that it's a difficult question for you, and right now you should leave that question. Okay, you could probably come back to it later on if you have time. Okay, so you could be selective in such passages in attempting your questions. All right, then so this was your RC passage. I hope everything is clear to you. In case something is not, you can tell me. Yes, and I agree with you that in the essence of passage questions, because we normally operate by this logic that that extreme we should be suspicious of extreme options, and this one says cannot be solved by materialists. Right away, it looks like an extreme option. But see, ultimately, your options are your king. Your options are your god, right? When you compare it with one appears to be very narrow, and that is why this cannot be the essence of this passage. So you ultimately go by comparison. Ultimately, that's what we call elimination. No, compare and eliminate. So that is why 2 is the answer. I agree with you. You become suspicious of it right away because of cannot. But वही capture कर रहा है, वो author का stance ही ऐसा है, right? Okay, coming to our sequence parajumble. Very easy, 1 minute. Make a sequence. So I've got some responses. What about others? To everybody says is the opening sentence. Absolutely, because that introduces whom we are talking about in the rest of the sentences, isn't it? So he, then his need, right? Okay. To is the opening. Then what should come next? So here we had to proceed very logically and methodically. See, first you will grow grains, then only you'll be able to harvest them, isn't it? So first will come four, and then will come one, not vice versa. Not vice versa. You can't harvest something before growing it. So the hunter gatherer went from place to place in search of food. This was followed by an attempt to grow food. Earlier, he went place to place in search of food. This was followed by an attempt to grow food. So, sequential relationship here. How? By scattering the spare grains. Whatever grains he collected by going from place to place, those grains were scattered and grown. He just harvested the wild grains. तो ये कौन से grains थे जो उसने collect करे थे जगह जगह जाकर? Yes, the grains that he had collected by going from place to place. These were wild grains that were collected, right? So then he just harvested them. Now, as the crops began to give better yields, now his wild grains, the crop began to give better yields. This reduced his need to go in search of animals and wild plants. So later on, how this article would go about that. Then he started. Then the search for wild grains stopped. Basically, then he stopped going altogether, and then he would just keep some grains from the ones that he harvested and would grow them again. That would be perhaps the continuation. So the sequence is 2413 here. Let's see how many of you who made it the fastest. Let's see. Just made it the fastest, 2413. Absolutely correct. And the next one that I got, 2413, was from Aspirant. Okay. Rohit made till 24. Then Dipanshu said 2413. Dipankar, Yaneshwari, Amrit, Rohit. Absolutely correct. All of you. Okay. This is the sequence here. So proceed very, very logically in your para jumbles, right? There can be sequential relationships that we ignore while reading. This is something that you have to take care of. Harvesting will happen after growing. Okay. Now, a para summary question. I'll just go invisible for a while so that you can read it. Okay, and let's attempt this. Just a second. Those spare are from the harvested ones. Spare grains, okay. But then, uh, how will, again, the attempt to grow will come first, right? So this was followed by an attempt to grow. Basically, the search, going place to place in search of food, that was followed by an attempt to grow. Okay. DILR में नहीं दम था. Okay. We'll see. Uh, let's attempt this one. Okay. All right. Pragya, I raised your concern about mock 19. Okay, so Tanishka ma'am will contact you about this. Okay. 2, 4. That's it. I've got just 4 responses. What about others? What are the others doing? All right. Fine. I'll make do with 6 responses. So, the paragraph requires understanding, okay, that when you learn a language later in your life, you are not so this is a very layperson interpretation that I made when I was reading this, that you're not as good at it, in the sense that your speaking in that language will not be as nuanced. You would not know as many, let's say, idioms, as many, so that in-depth knowledge would not be there. You would just know the basics, right? So the author gives intonation as an example, then, that how people learn it later in their life. Okay, it has been imposed on them, and that's why what happens as a result is that its grammar has been regularly mowed. Okay, it becomes a stripped down version of itself. Okay, so this sentence I think was pretty important to understand. The last sentence. So first says, when a language has been used for many centuries as the lingua franca, the language of the people, right? In a vast region, it becomes especially telegraphic. No, the reason is not that it has been used as a lingua franca. The reason is that people have learned it later in their lives. Okay, they have learned it after childhood, and that's why it became a stripped down version of itself. It became telegraphic, right? Just like हम एक टेलीग्राफ में एक टेलीग्राम में कम कम लिखते हैं, right? So telegraphic means that, less is to be actually said to put a sentence together. We say much less to put a sentence together. So this is not the reason. It's being lingua franca. 2 says languages become less busy and more nuanced. They become less busy. That means they'll not have as many words, as many metaphors out there, and more nuanced. We filter it down, we strip it down. Okay, they become more nuanced when imposed over long periods of time on new people who learn it as adults. Right? So, this is actually capturing the essence of this paragraph pretty well. A well framed option. I didn't even have doubts that, okay, I have to of course, I'll check 3 and 4, but it pretty much captured the essence. Coming to 3 and 4. 3 is right away incorrect because it talks about it's becoming cryptic. Cryptic? What is when I encrypt something, I actually codify it. So something that is cryptic is not clear. So we are not saying that it is cryptic, it is not clear. Its colloquial forms become unclear. So ये तो point है ही नहीं. 3 eliminated. Fourth, in languages that have been spoken for centuries over vast regions, time and repetition wear words out. And what wears away is often a nugget of meaning. It's not because of their overuse, their repetition that they have been worn out. It's because people learned them later in their lives. So they learned just the very basics. They say much less to convey what they mean. So again, 4 is not capturing the point. It is digressing. Okay. Oh, I am so sorry. I'm not visible yet. See, I failed to realize this. Just a second. Yes, I have come back now. Okay. So the answer is 2. I hope this is clear. This was not a very difficult para summary question and the kind that should have been given a shot. Okay. So 2 is the answer. Any queries in any of the questions that we've done, you can ask. The odd sentence out, I hope, was clear to everyone. Yes. Also, I hope that all of you are aware of this marathon, the CAT marathon. It's going to be an 8-hour non-stop marathon, right? And we are going to look at all the sections in these 2 days. Okay, so it's not like throughout the day you'll be studying VRC only. So 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., 21st and 22nd November. Join us for a lot of sessions on DILR, Quant, VRC. Okay. And apart from this, you know that the last lap is already going on. I'll be discussing mock 19 VARC with you on the 19th, right? Yes, on the 19th, on Saturday. This is a detailed analysis info for CAT 2022. You already know this. We'll carry out a detailed analysis for all the 3 slots, so do join us, right? And our CAT 23 program, you can recommend it to your friends, right? Recorded lectures, live lectures, GDPR prep, mock test, practice test, of course, those are going to be there, right? So a lot of stuff in one product. Marathon, no Prajwal, Vikrant sir will be taking it, and So basically, because I can't go to the head office, I live in Jammu and our head offices are in Noida. So that's why I won't be present. But trust me, the sessions are going to be amazing, 21st and 22nd. So do attend. Okay. 70 plus mocks in our mock series, and I think these non-cat mocks are going to be highly relevant for you now, so you can consider buying it. Plus there are some other practice questions as well, not just these mock tests. So I hope you enjoyed the session. Yes. Which mocks, Payal? The mock series? No, you have to buy the mock series. Okay. All right. So, Facebook, Instagram, we are everywhere. You can, acha, if they are busy drinking tea, Dipankar, you can ask them to join our social media handles. Perhaps they'll enjoy that, right? And we can stay connected via Telegram, right? Okay. Welcome, welcome all of you. Welcome. Okay, all right, Amrit. Okay. So we'll discuss that in case you have any queries. Okay? All right then. Bye-bye. See you. See you tomorrow.